I probably died, overdosed 15 times. And every single time, this is where God or some higher power was with me. Like every time this is the addict thing. Like I'd know I was using too much and I'd know I was going to overdose. And I'd just by luck, sometimes a couple of the times I just walked out of the front door of the flat and somebody just happened to find me. There was another time I dropped in front of an ambulance on John Street, Cabramatta. That was a God job for sure. There was other times where I walked out of the bathroom on a train station platform and hit the deck, and paramedics have broken ribs of me, revived me.
Hi guys, this podcast explores the importance of our connection, well-being and mental health. To reason with someone is to motivate them to do or accept topics, ideas and issues through discussion and having conversations. This podcast is for those that want to raise their awareness, change their perspective or just have a good time. My vision is to help people find reason to live, to grow and to understand. I do that through this podcast as well as counselling individuals that want to help themselves.
No, he needs to know.
I just think he's gonna talk and it's gonna make a lot of sense.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
One man, one podcast. 3, 2, 1.
Reason With Me podcast, episode 20.
It's time!
Welcome back to the podcast. Today I am speaking with Danny. I can't wait to pick this guy's brain. He's such an motivational, inspiring, and just full of gratitude type of guy. His story is incredibly powerful. It does get quite in-depth into his story of addiction and his amazing journey through recovery. So I guess for those that potentially might be triggered by some of the content, there is a lot of a personal journey for Danny, and hopefully that you do get something out of it, because he has so many tools for anyone looking to add some things to their own recovery journey and keep on keeping on. As Danny so nicely put, he just never gives up. Danny is a recovering addict who's not had a drink or a drug since the 15th of September 2009. Danny enjoys raising awareness through the personal story of addiction and empowering and educating others about the emotional and social impacts of addiction. Danny's earned himself a Diploma of Community Services and in the process of completing a Bachelor of Counselling. Danny's a senior case manager at Glebe House, a treatment facility for men with addiction issues who are affected by the criminal justice system. Most amazing of all, Danny is the founder of Encapsulator, a secure web platform providing digital time capsules, allowing people to record their future hopes and dreams, documenting family histories to be passed on to future generations into a time-locked vault to be discovered at a later date. Danny is a bunch of fun. I loved talking to Danny, and I can't wait for you guys to hear about all the positive things that he has to say and the vibrance and the energy of gratitude that he brings. All right, Danny, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Jackson. Pleasure to be here, brother.
So let's just dive straight in. Tell me, who the hell are you and what do you do?
Good stuff. But who am I? I'm a man in recovery from drugs and alcohol, been clean 10 years, 11 months and 10 days. So coming up to a big milestone on the 15th of September next month, yeah. I'm on LinkedIn. I've got the headline, The Gratitude Maker. I do believe I've got this ability, at least and helpful ability, to sort of make people happy. And maybe I've learned some methods over certainly the last 11 years that help me to tap into the happiness side of life, because prior to entering recovery from drugs and alcohol, I was miserable, hopeless, a lot of pain, hurt and misery. And there's something I just did over the last 11 years that's really helped me tap into the happiness side of things. I'm also the founder of a of a web platform that provides digital time capsules. So I'm an entrepreneur, a tech founder, and an inventor. I work in recovery. I work in a drug and alcohol treatment center. I have done so for the last 8 years. It's called Glebe House. We take men coming in usually from prison or from the community, affected by the criminal justice system, and also just by the use of a lot of drugs, mate. And basically I get paid to teach people how to live.
Yeah.
Good job.
That's a good way of putting it. I like that. And I think, yeah, man, you're already making me smile. So obviously you do have something about you that's full of gratitude and
Cheers, bro.
sharing that too. So that's great.
Thank you, mate.
So tell me a little bit about the journey, I guess, with your story.
Yeah, mad man. Look, I started using drugs very young, 14. It's not that young these days when I hear some horrible stories working in treatment.
Yeah.
Far out. But for me, it was 14, and I know to some people that does seem like a really young age. It started off pretty harmlessly with marijuana and alcohol, which improved or increased to started using amphetamines, magic mushrooms, LSD over the next 12 months. And by the time I hit 16, I picked up heroin for the first time. And basically, I never thought I would either, Well, it was something I was scared of. It was the first time I was ever scared of picking up something. I remember sitting in the car out the front of this fella's house, just about to get on for the first time and thinking this is a bad idea. I'll never forget that moment. It's funny. Maybe I've changed it over the years, but I just remember thinking this is probably not a good idea. And I also remember feeling a bit scared, But sure enough, I went ahead and smoked heroin for the first time just before I was 16. And that was the beginning of the end, I never basically missed another day of using heroin for the next 17 years. Unless I was incapacitated or locked up and I couldn't get it, my whole mission in life was, the getting and using of heroin, So started getting locked up in boys' homes at 16 years old due to the obtaining of drugs, money doesn't last long. I hurt, stole from family members. I was quite a popular kid prior to 15. I used to be a really good skateboard rider, and I don't know if it had to do with that. Actually, I was just this happy sort of kid. I relate and I identify as my childhood being quite good. I had this beautiful, loving mum who was always supportive, and I believe I got a lot of my morals and values, and I think a lot of my spirit comes from my mum. My dad, on the other hand, was a little bit. He was a little bit shonky. That's his nickname, actually, shonky. I learned a lot of probably the things that didn't help me from my dad. I believe I am my dad, absolutely. Although I'm in recovery now for 11 years, but I go and visit my dad usually weekly or fortnightly as kind of my amends process. And it's kind of a difficult thing because I see one of the things I've learned in recovery is don't try and change my dad. I don't want to change him. It's not good luck trying to change anyone anyway,
Nice.
But so I just let him be. But I see a lot of me in my dad anyway, Yeah, mate. Jail at 18 years old, Parramatta jail. Remember being locked up there. Got myself into a bit of trouble. And I was in and out of jail between the age of 18 and 28 most of that time. Yeah, it's just the carnage of addiction, mate. I feel like I definitely went to the lowest of low throughout my addiction. Homelessness, doing anything to get my drugs, and I lost all my friends too. By the time I was 16, that's what I was saying. I used to be a popular kid, but by the time I was 16 and a half, they'd all dropped off, because even though they were smoking a bit of pot and drinking too, like I was doing that with them, but I think they see me like, this guy's too much, I went on with it,
Yeah.
But yeah, and and then so 17 years, I guess, of that. I always say that pain, hurt, and misery of addiction. I feel like my rock bottom. I got on the methadone actually at 21. By that time, I've been in and out of jail quite a lot, and I realised every time I get pinched, I'd be hanging out from heroin. And I laugh because it is a joke. I heard that methadone helps you stop using heroin, and you get on it for 6 months. This is what they used to tell. I don't know what the story is these days, but I think it's still. You can get on it for 6 months. You can get a better quality of life. You can stabilise, and then you can just come off the methadone. Well, I didn't get off it for 13 years. So I was on it between the age of 21 and 33. And in that time, like I said, I was in and out of jail, but I worked out that was kind of the trick, because I had no ambition to not be in jail. Like, I knew this was just, I felt like this is just the life I've been served. I knew I was doing the wrong thing, absolutely. So I just kind of tried to make the most of it. And the methadone is it's like a synthetic heroin prescribed by the government. God bless them anyway. Like, it probably saved my life in a lot of ways, but I was constantly stoned somewhat. I used to call it my security blanket. Like, I'd have my drink of methadone of a morning, and I'd kind of have a glow, which kind of helped me. I continued abusing heroin for the first 6 years I've been on methadone, right? Basically to no avail. Is it the word? Like, you don't get a result, but addiction, the obsession and compulsion, chasing that first hit basically would continue to make me do whatever it took still on a daily basis to get my drugs, but I wasn't even feeling it, because the methadone gives you quite a high tolerance. So that would mean that, you're doing it for nothing. And then I remember Shabu, methamphetamines came out on the streets of Cabramatta. I don't know what year it would have been, but it would have been 6 years into me being on methadone. So hang on, 21, so let's say 28, I don't know, about 18 years ago, right? Shabu came in, which was ice, and I started using that, and I was getting like this mad result off it, like epic result. And being on the ice and methadone, one thing I learned, like, I'd have a lot of friends around me or associates around me using ice who would really get fucked up. They get paranoid, really bad, psychosis and that. But the methadone, which is the trick, the methadone, you wouldn't get that. You could only go maybe 36 hours awake before because I was on a good drink of methadone too. So it sort of bring me back down. So I believe it truly saved my life in a lot of ways, methadone. So I abused that for the next 6 years. So when I entered recovery, it wasn't right at the end, but anyway, when I entered recovery, I weighed 65 kilos. I looked like shit because I've been using methamphetamines for 6 years, and I was on 120 mils of methadone, and I didn't brush my teeth. I look terrible. I'm actually 102 kilos at the moment, which is a bit heavy, but dramatic changes.
Very different to 65.
Oh my God. That's a lot of weight. Mate, I could, like I said to you in the beginning of the, before we started recording, I can get carried away in this stuff. That's kind of like, look, let me just throw in a couple more things. I probably overdosed 15 times. And every single time, this is where God or some higher power was with me. Like, every time this is the addict thing. Like, I'd know I was using too much, and I'd know I was going to overdose, and I'd just by luck, sometimes a couple of the times I just walked out of the front door of the flat and somebody just happened to find me. There was another time I dropped in front of an ambulance on John Street, Cabramatta. That was a God job for sure. There was other times where I walked out of the bathroom on a train station platform and hit the deck, and paramedics have broken ribs of me, revived me. And it took me, like I said, I was using dirty needles. So I guess I'm just throwing in that for impact because it's just true. Like where I came from, it's fucking ridiculous that I'm here now, so far away from that.
So you entered recovery 11 years ago, and was it up and down? I guess
Yeah, cool, Jackson. Well, actually, I got clean off the methadone in 2008, right? I don't often connect these two. All right, so that's when I entered recovery, actually. So I went to a rehab in Surrey Hills. It's now over at Roselle. It's called MTAR, Methadone to Abstinence Reduction, MTAR, right? Best joint in the world because there's no other place. There's one up in Byron Bay now. But there's no other place that you can reduce off the methadone. No one takes you because, I don't know, it's hard work to do it, So I went through that place, and as I was there for 3 months, I got involved in the fellowships of the 12-step fellowships, I remember going to those meetings thinking, because you're on the methadone, it's quite a weird thing. You're thinking, God, listen to these poor people, they're talking about anxiety and fear and sadness, and I was just still stoned basically from the methadone. But what happened was I started hearing this message of recovery. Like I started getting a little bit of hope that maybe I could do that. Maybe I could be happy and maybe, but still the idea of getting off the methadone, think about it. I hadn't had one single day straight for 13 years. So that also means I reckon I never had a feeling. Really, like I hadn't experienced anxiety. I didn't know what fear was. My rock bottom went for 13 years. Like you can say I went to jails, I died, I was resuscitated, I was homeless, but it was kind of just a combination of 13 years of shit or 13 years of not so bad as well, however I depend to look at it. I ended up getting off the methadone through that place, right? So MTAR absolutely changed my life because I would never have gotten off the methadone, right? But I picked up again because I used heroin on day. This is a long story too. It was actually day 6 because I actually tried to get on a day 22. It's funny I remember this, but I got ripped off. Right, it's the weirdest story. But but I injected what I thought was coke actually, right? I thought I won't go to heroin, I'll just use coke anyway. And I got ripped off. So really, that's when I relapsed because if you're sticking the needle in your arm, that's a relapse, whether you get stoned or not, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But anyway, day 60, I didn't get caught for that in the rehab. Day 60, I used heroin again because I kept having this idea, right? And I reckon this is every single addict out there who was on the methadone. I hadn't felt heroin for 13 years properly since I got on the methadone. So I just had this niggling feeling constantly. You just got to chase that first hit again almost, that first stoned. And anyway, I fucked it up. I got kicked out of rehab, and then I moved to Fiji for a couple of weeks. I thought there was no drugs in Fiji. They call that a geographical. I'm sure you're aware of that. I tried doing that. I was back within weeks and here's an important part in Fiji, right? I never identified as being an alcoholic, right? Because I wasn't. I just used drugs all my life, right? Even though I drank when I was younger, but from the time I picked up the drugs, I never really got into the alcohol. But in Fiji, I became an alcoholic in 24 hours, man. I didn't have the drugs. So the next morning at 8 a.m. I was drinking, and it just continued like that for a few weeks until I just thought, I got to get out of here. This is horrible. When I came back to Australia.
They say switch the bitch for the witch.
Yeah, mate. Absolutely. Like alcohol is a drug. And I will do anything to change the way I feel, I was drinking carb, I was drinking Datura. They had all shit drugs there actually. So pot, I was getting stoned, but pot wasn't doing it for me like what I needed.
Escaping you enough from starting to have experiences of emotions.
No, yeah, man. Yeah. So yeah, bro, that was my introduction to recovery. Then I made it back from Fiji, and I got 5.5 months up this time, right? Yeah, you're asking like the journey. So I got 5.5 months up this time. It must have been the beginning of 2009.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was never going to use again. That right there is my biggest mistake ever. Like the minute the 12 steps, right? Step one, I'll just share this without mentioning too much about the whole anonymous thing. But step one is I admitted I was powerless over my addiction, that my life had become unmanageable, right? So the minute I start going, I'm never going to use again, I'm just missing the whole concept because it's just a daily program. It's just for today I won't.
Yeah.
So anyway, I blew it 5.5 months. Next thing you know, I'm on my way home from a meeting. I was quite happy, right? This is quite significant, right? I thought everything was good. I was probably that day I said I was never going to use again. I was on my way home, living in Woolloomooloo. There's a bad thing straight away. And I bumped into some chick that I used to use with. And next thing, just like that, we're in a taxi and we're on our way to Stanmore to get on. Just like that, threw it all away. So this last time around, am I talking too fast? Do you want?
No, I'm loving it. I'm taking it all in, man, and it's good.
Let me know if you want to ask a question.
I'll ask one soon. I'll ask one.
Yeah, good. All right, that's good. I've covered what it was like and how I got here, right? And that this is experience, strength, and hope. You know, I usually, if I get the opportunity to share at a hospital or a detox, we always go by this format: what it was like, how I got here, and what it's like now. You know, which is an awesome little bit of form. The last time I got clean, I feel like I've got plenty of evidence to show what didn't work for me. Right, that time when I got 5.5 months clean up, thinking I was never going to use again, I was involved in recovery quite heavily, but I was really on the outskirts as well.
Yeah.
So I hated people. Like when I say I hated people, right, what I learned down the track was that I was just scared shitless of people. I was so full of fear. I hated intimacy. I did hate that, right? I hated intimacy. So I'm really good at talking shit. You know? I'm really good at going, hey, mate, how you going? They go, good, how are you? And then that uncomfortable silence right there, that moment right there is what I avoided completely. So I just wouldn't talk to people. I stayed away from people. I had a couple of mates who would just talk shit with me so I could handle them. But the minute you start getting all deep and emotional and really wanting to know how am I,
you ran.
I run. Yeah. So I knew I had to change that, right? Which goes on to connection, you know, like I know that that's something important to you that you want to talk about. So my connection was minimal. In fact, I used to have people say, Danny, why don't you come to our milestones in recovery? We celebrate 30, 60, 90 days, then 6 months, then 12 months, then 18 months, and then every year is a milestone, right? I avoided all my mates' milestones because I just didn't want to be uncomfortable, you know?
Because you had to connect, and connection.
Yeah, because I get that intimacy that I just hated, you know? So, I was missing that. I had a sponsor. You would have heard of sponsor before, but I didn't ring him. So this last time around, I committed to so much, mate. You know? They said to me, Danny, you don't have to change much, just everything. And I remember thinking, God, you know. So I got myself a sponsor. I rang him every day for the first 9 months. I started going to people's milestones and I started connecting with people on a level that I just hated, mate. I hated it. I'm quite passionate, but like this is how it would be, Jackson. I'd go out for coffee with a group of people. And the amazing thing is, in the fellowship, you get immersed in this whole group of other awesome people trying to struggle and do the same thing as you are, you know? But I'd go for coffee reluctantly, right? And I'd be watching these people laughing and talking and I think everyone's got this same story, mind you, right? But I'd be that one incredibly uncomfortable, just thinking, look at these people laughing and having a good time, and I couldn't do it, you know? But I've heard every addict say the same story, so I don't know what it is, what you see. But so I just started forcing myself to do that, So I started connecting. I started ringing my sponsor. I started writing 5 things that I was grateful for every day. Like, what the hell am I doing this for? They told me to do it, so I just did it. I didn't get it at all, right? A gratitude list. I did a short journal every day on what I did good today and what I could possibly do better tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then I'd answer 3 questions out of this book. It's called The Steps Working Guide. It's on the 12 steps as well. It would just help me to identify step 1, step 2, all the way through. There's actually 464 questions in that book by the time it gets to the end of the 12. What else? I found a higher power. They said a higher power, like the word God used to freak me out when I got clean. And it didn't really freak me out, but I just hated when people would preach. I kind of still do, although these days I absolutely identify that it's none of my business to judge anyone for anything. I've just got my own personal belief in a higher power. They said you have to find a higher power. The only thing it needs to be is loving, caring, and able to restore me to sanity. And as long as it's not me.
As long as it's not you. That's such an important part that people miss. It's not you. So that ties into my next question, Danny.
Yeah.
And I believe a higher power is a big part of that, because we've got to turn it over. You've got to turn something over to somebody else, it's not myself, because we can't do this alone. So you everything you said, so intense and powerful, and the story so far. Thank God you're here. You shouldn't be here from all the different stories. So that's I'm really grateful for that. Be on my gratitude list today, mate. And then, but where do you now, and along this very long road where you've gotten to today, and all those great tools you did, and I imagine still do quite a number of them, where do you pull your strength to continue to do that?
Look, so I continue to do all of that stuff every day still. Right? The minute I start getting complacent, I stop doing that stuff. I reckon, well, this is my mentality that I'll use. Right? Thank God I think like that. It's quite heavy. Like, I go to people, and people go, "Oh, you poor person thinking like that," but it works for me. But the minute I stop doing any of that, there's more than that stuff I mentioned as well. There's probably another 5 things that I do on a daily basis. One of them is reaching out to other people, right? Every single day, I put my hand out to someone, whether they got maybe more sanity than me or a lot less. I always like to just welcome every single person I meet with a smile and just go, "Hey, I'm Danny. How are you doing?" And I meet a lot of people because I work in recovery. So every day I do that. But where I continue to get my strength from, bro, there's no, I don't know. It's not a struggle at all. I love my life. I love my work. I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't regret nothing from my past, and my life is freaking awesome. So my levels of happiness and gratitude. If I didn't do any of that stuff, I don't know. It comes natural. I don't know. It's practice, I guess.
It sounds like the gratitude that you have, and I guess the perspective that you have on life is where, if you weren't to have that, you wouldn't have the resilience and strength that you have. So it's backing yourself with that stuff, which is amazing. So you mentioned
Can I just say, I think this is important too, like the last month or 2 months, and certainly many periods in my recovery, I'm not good, So I want to acknowledge that, right? So things happen, relationship breakdowns, family stuff, stuff that's kind of out of my control, powerless stuff, right? Anxiety sometimes, feeling like shit, depressed. Like, I can get all of that stuff happening too, right?
Yeah. You're still human, Danny.
Yeah, and I feel like it's important to acknowledge that through those times, crazy enough, I kind of enjoy it, right? It's like I've got this ability to go, all right, identify acknowledge and accept is a little thing I come up with, right? So I realize what's going on, Danny. All right. Just acknowledge it. Like, fine, this is part of life. This is one of those things. And there's two types of acceptance, I believe, Jackson. There's the one that we hear people say, Danny, you need to accept this, right? That one's bullshit. Like, that means nothing. It's the first part of accepting anything. But when we can truly accept a situation, people, places, or things, then I can move forward, that's when it goes. So I kind of enjoy a bit of the pain, because I believe that if I continue moving forward, and my experience has shown over the last 11 years, that from pain comes growth, I'm becoming a better, stronger, and I'm working out what it is I like, what I want, what I need, what I don't want, I just thought I'd throw that in. It's not
Well,
always.
it ties so perfectly into what I guess I want to move into, Danny, is you didn't give yourself an opportunity to identify or acknowledge those feelings. And then now you say you like to embrace it. That makes sense, right? You now go, I actually have feelings. I'm actually going to sit with them. Sometimes they're shit. Sometimes they're overwhelming and intense, but I feel them versus when I didn't feel them at all. So I guess talk to me a little bit more, Danny, about what that means for you now to have that opportunity to do that. And how does that connect back to the importance of connection, mental health, and your overall well-being?
It's a good question, Jackson. It's all connected to gratitude, yeah? It definitely is. It all comes back to gratitude. And when I say gratitude, I align three things. My spirituality, my spirit, it's awake, that gratitude and happiness is all the same thing to me. Like, it's all this one thing. So going through those feelings, look, I'll add this too. I cry a lot. Like, I never used to cry, but I cry almost, sometimes it feels like on a daily basis. And most of the time, my tears are through happiness, right? Like, it's weird. I can't quite explain it. It doesn't always seem happy, but I seem to tear up a lot, right? So that's a result of me being in touch with all those feelings, right? Like, I know who I am 100%. I'm always open to, and I love a bit of criticism and feedback from people that I thought, oh, shit, thanks for pointing that out. Like, I've learned so much about myself because of my friends pointing stuff out too. But I feel like I do know I'm in touch with my feelings, I guess. So that helps me to identify that stuff and enjoy it for the good and for the bad. My connection with other human beings, I believe it's my job, actually, as a human being, and certainly a man in recovery, to I talk about being brave and having courage every single day as well, because that's my default. Please understand this. My default, even though it kind of isn't now, but my default would be to wake up and not do nothing all day, not engage in anything uncomfortable, that's for sure. Not answer the phone to a private number or a friend. My default would be just to go, I'm taking the day off, I train every day 2 or 6 days a week too, Jackson. I think that's a massive part of my spirituality too. That's the stuff that keeps me alive too. I love my heavy, rigorous exercise too. That stuff gets my it's like my drug, these endorphins. But the connection stuff, I believe it's my job as a human being just to sort of reach out, share the love and kindness, smile, be brave. And when I say all that stuff, all I'm talking about is just saying, how you going, mate? Smiling to someone in the street, saying hello to the bus driver, the coffee shop, all that simple stuff that so many people do not do. Yeah. I was taught in supervision to be the conscious observer, right? So I watch people all the time, and I think, and this is just my opinion, I think there's a lot of fear in society around this stuff. People actually want to be nice, but they're scared to be nice because they're worried that they'll look like an idiot, or they're going to get embarrassed, or it'll be taken the wrong way.
Yep.
That can certainly be one. But I just go, I'm just going to do it anyway, because ultimately I do everything. This is a selfish part of my program, and I think I do all of this stuff at the end of the day for me anyway. I keep what I have by giving it away.
Yeah, I think that thing's true for you, Danny. I think that's exactly what you shine, like what sort of shines through is
Cheers.
gratitude being a drug in the same sense as well. As much as like exercise and endorphins go, I think the same thing happens with being able to be, grateful for others and grateful for yourself, so that you can sort of be present, be in the moment for today, to then not have all this other stuff prevent you from those opportunities that come up. So, man, I think that everything you said sort of ties in so perfectly with all this stuff. And I guess I want to go back to like what I learned, and what I guess how I treat a lot of addiction, and actually really everything comes back to an addiction in my mind, and I think the end of the day, the opposite of addiction is connection. And we're so disconnected when we're in addiction. And you've said that so clearly. Like, I don't want to fucking talk to people. I don't want to have my own feelings. Like, these are just the epitome of disconnected from others, myself. And now you're the absolute opposite of that.
Yeah. Or I'll use. See, that's like, I have to be. I want to be, don't get me wrong, but that's how I got here. So why would I stop doing it? And in fact, like I said, that thing about my job, it's my job. I feel like I've been blessed by the universe to remain clean and it's a blessing, trust me, for so long, or today anyway. So I feel like if I want to keep doing what I've got, keep doing what I did,
Yeah. And I think that's it, because I talk a lot about my defaults as well. And I think my defaults go, as much as I don't like doing them, like my default is to still, I don't know, pull everything out and not really look after myself and do everything for everybody else. And, yours is to, just don't do anything for the day and just have the day off. We have all these defaults, but it's about challenging that stuff and then continuing to live in the day of the day that you actually want, that you've got to break through. And, we've had our minds and our bodies this whole time telling us one thing, and now we're trying to do things functionally. It's a bit like learning how to walk again. And
totally.
It gives us really good results, right? It gives us such good results, but it's still like, I got to work on this. That's why program and recovery is ongoing, and it does take that commitment, and that can be hard and fulfilling, everything in one. So I'll wind down a little bit, Danny, because I know you've said so many brilliant things so far. I really want to acknowledge that. I think it's great. There's the gratitude and I guess giving service, and then there's your exercise. But besides those things, what are your like non-negotiables for self-care? Like, how do you look after you?
If I get angry at myself, which like I often tell myself to shut the fuck up and have a go at myself, right? But in the same sentence, always I'll almost apologize as well, So my non-negotiable, I don't know, like for self-care. Do you mean like maybe what situations I wouldn't put myself in?
No, I mean, like, what do you do to fill your cup back up? Because there's only so much gratitude we can give without coming back and looking at, all right, I got to fill myself back up. I imagine exercise and doing that 6 days a week is a massive one.
It totally is. Yes. So my checkup from the neck up, I love that. So my daily personal inventory, right? So at the end of every single day, Jackson, every single day. Now I want to emphasize that even if I'm watching Netflix in bed and I can feel I'm about to crash, I'll hit pause and then I'll say this little thing, like I'll go, what did I do good today? Which is what I did right in the beginning of my journal that I mentioned to you, right?
Yeah.
What did I do good today? What could I do better tomorrow? So and when I think about these things, I think about my work, the way I treated people, everything, my daily inventory. And then I pray for my family, my friends. I pray to be happy. I pray for motivation, for my fear to be removed. So I always acknowledge that I need my fear to be removed, and I pray to be happy. You know, and I say pray. That's, for me, that's what I've got no problem with saying that. It's an affirmation, really. That's all it is. I think prayer for me is just saying stuff out loud, hearing it, and making it happen. You know? So I believe that's probably been the most valuable tool I've ever had, and I do it like every single day. And it's my way of checking in with myself, like, what have I done good today? Good on you, Danny. And what can you do better tomorrow? And change it.
Yeah. And I think that takes so much discipline to be able to do that. And I think, it seems like it comes so naturally to you. And I think, like you said, otherwise I'll use, or, otherwise I'll be disconnected or whatever. So in the same respect, that the fact that you don't find it a chore is quite inspiring.
It's a pleasure, absolutely. Like, it really is. Just step 10 is we continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. That's where I got that from. I just turned it into my own daily inventory thing.
And that's the other thing. Everyone's journey is going to be different, and it's so nice to hear your perspective, and how your journey has been, and how the story is, and how you keep that going so well. But I think it's not one size fits all at the end of the day, and it's so nice to hear the different things that really, really work for you, and you make it your own. That's really comes through really clearly.
It's really interesting, actually. You're so right, Like, I see people do it completely different. And in fact, I know people like with double my time in sobriety, who do half of what I do and are happy, and then, everyone does things different. Just because something works for me doesn't mean it'll work for anyone else,
I think it'd be hard for anyone listening that does struggle with their own mental health or addiction, would still be able to pick up a few things of what you do, because everyone can use more gratitude. Everyone could use more motivation and positivity, for sure. So that's hopefully a lot of people pick up on a lot of different things. I know I have. It's been good. So besides the book that I hope you eventually write, what do you think, like, an inspiring or a motivational or a good book has been in your life? What would a go-to book be?
Sorry, I'm laughing because,
or whatever.
No, thank you, Dan. Sorry, this is kind of embarrassing, right? Why I'm laughing, but I don't read, right?
Yeah.
And in fact,
I don't read that much either.
I've read like 3 books, right? But here's the guy, and they're actually sitting over there. I can see him. One of them was Alan Carr, How to Quit Smoking, right? The other one was Alan Carr, How to Stop Eating or Overeating. And the third one was aligned with my business journey, was 5 How to Become a Key Person of Influence. Now, what I can say, amazingly enough, out of those 3 books is I don't smoke. I learned so much from that book about the persons of influence thing, like just around recovery, just about being brave and continue moving forward. And the overeating one, well, I'm just looking around like I'm a pig. Like, I eat chocolate. It's one of my addictions for sure. That one didn't work.
Yeah. All right. So the other 2 out of 3 is pretty good, man.
Yeah, that's all right. But I laugh because you know how you see people making video content and they've got that library of books behind them or whatever. Lucky you haven't got one there, actually. But you know how people often use that, which I think I think it's great. But I want to get one of those and just put my 3 books there, in my bookshelf.
Yeah, that's so
I
good.
listen to a lot of content on a daily basis. So I'm an audio type of guy. But look, just sorry to be serious. I know the power, and I've never read this book, but is it called the Power of Now? Who's that by, that book?
Power of Now, name escapes me, but yeah, very famous book. I
Yeah,
should know
sure.
the name of.
I do believe that the most important moment in my life is this moment right now. I truly do believe that. Like, if I can nurture and take advantage of every moment, but this right now, that it's kind of like what recovery is all about.
Yeah.
Just acknowledging the things that are amazing in my life right now, rather than focusing on the negatives. Because if I focus on the negatives, I'm never going to win. If I focus on the positives, there's always hope and opportunity available for me.
That's such a nice little sentiment. I think I really like that. So, Danny, I'm mindful of time. I don't have too much more time, but tell me, where can people find you? I mean, you can talk a little bit about Encapsulator if you like. I think that's a really cool thing to plug, because it's such a cool and innovative idea. But just I guess in general, like, how can people get in touch with you? And
Thanks.
Yeah.
Jackson, so Encapsulator, I'll just give you the quick story. When I turned 5 years clean, and this is a very cool story. When I turned 5 years clean, right, I was sitting on the desk, at the desk of the opposite side of the desk of the rehab I went through 5 years earlier, right? So you can imagine, because that's the place I've been working at now, Glebe House, for the last 8 years. I was full of gratitude. I was reflecting, I was thinking, wow, I wonder what I was actually like when I entered this place. In fact, I've even read my case notes because I work there. I can do that now. And I just remember thinking, it gives me goosebumps to think. And I came up with this idea to record a video message to my future self for my 10-year milestone in another 5 years' time. And I started the camera rolling. And I immediately realized that this was such a unique experience, recording a message to my future self. I got quite emotional. I was answering some questions that I'd done a little bit of research around. And I discovered that I was talking about stuff that maybe I'd never spoken about before, because this ability to express yourself without anyone else around, so no fear of judgment, it's very different. Like, even if we're talking to a psych or whatever, we've always got fronts and ego attached, and we're putting on some kind of show. Well, this was me talking to myself in the future with none of that. And I started getting our clients to use it at Glebe House about 3 years ago. We captured over 100 videos and been able to give them back to the guys. And then I went on this mad trip to America, where I discovered everyone over there was like an entrepreneur, and I was inspired to come home and turn it into Encapsulator. So we provide digital time capsules, allowing individuals to reflect on their present moment and record their hopes, dreams, goals, and future aspirations, locked away in our secure time-locked vault, to be discovered at a date that you choose in the future by yourselves or by your loved ones. Digital time capsules.
That's very good. That's so good.
You can find me on LinkedIn, absolutely. I'm probably most present under Danny A. Shannon. And I mentioned earlier, the gratitude maker is my tagline, but you can get me on Facebook. My Encapsulator address is encapsulator.io for like Indian Ocean or input output. And my email is admin@encapsulator.io. Please feel free. Anyone who would like, one of the things I said to you earlier is if someone sends me a message, I always reply. Guaranteed, especially if it's to do with recovery, 100%, because if I don't, I'll use it. Like I said today. So, so anyone wants to know any information or want to have a quick chat, or if I can help in any way, please feel free to reach me out.
I like that. I'll put all that stuff on my website, and I follow you on LinkedIn. That's how I got you here today, and I think the content you put up there is awesome. But yeah, man, I just want to say, well, maybe one last thing that you would tell someone that's in recovery or thinking about entering recovery. What would be like a quick bit of advice for them?
What about don't ever give up? I think it's such a cliche thing, right? But I never thought I was going to get clean. I thought I would be on the methadone for the rest of my life. I had no hopes or ambitions, absolutely not, And I do believe that I kept trying. I went into detox and rehab over 50 times, man, ridiculous amount. And it was because I had this mum supported me. But anyway, the point is, one day I just made a different decision. It was simple as this, right? Amazingly enough, I was 60 days clean. I was going to throw it away again. I was going to get on. I thought this is too hard. And I just, for the first time in my life, I thought about what would it be like if I just got on the other bus and go back to the rehab instead of throwing it all away. And amazingly enough, I've never really come close to using again. That was almost 11 years ago. So I believe the stars and the planets align at this perfect time. And if you're not there trying, you're never going to get that alignment. Continue trying. And here I am. So don't ever give up. Would it be?
I love that, and it's not a cliche. It's not a cliche if you live it and breathe it and it's working, man.
Sure.
That's the case for you. All right. Yeah, me too. I think. Yeah.
So many good ones.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, that's about all. I'm a bit sad. It's been lovely to talk to you, Danny. And yeah, maybe I'd love to keep in touch and have you back on the podcast to talk some other stuff soon too.
I felt that was really good, Jackson. Thank you. Beautiful questions. I really, you can tell I enjoy talking about this stuff. It's my absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me on the show, man.
You're welcome.
Do you want to find out more about how therapy can help you kick some goals? Go check out findreasontherapy.com.au or the Find Reason Therapy Instagram page.